Our next reader is Lindsey, Loree, a speculative fiction and fantasy author who focuses on topics including, but not limited to, feminism, environmentalism, and human rights. Lindsey, Loree is the founder of HerStoryArc.com, a website dedicated to finding and praising progressive feminist narratives. She has a passion for science fiction, fantasy humor, tabletop gaming, and all things Sailor Moon. Xena, Warrior Princess is her longtime mentor. Please welcome speculative fiction and fantasy author Lindsey, Loree.
I didn't realize my Sailor Moon obsession would be made public today. But yes, thank you for the introduction. Like you said, my name is Lindsey, Loree. I'm reading from Twin Cities Speculations, but I'm actually only one of 8 authors that wrote this book. It's a short story anthology. So I'll be reading a select excerpt from my own story entitled Heaven Help Me, but please know that there's 7 other fantastic authors within this book as well who you won't be getting a preview of today, but I do have some bookmarks over to the right if you should like to look us up later and find a copy online. So with that being said, I'll just jump right in. Greetings, prospective counselors. Thank you for meeting me here today. My name is Theodore, and I'm a recovering guardian angel. I've been without a halo for 153 days. It's been a long journey for me, but I wouldn't go back, even if I had the choice. Many ex-angels will need guidance to this land in the upcoming years. When the prophetic child becomes an adult, more angels will rediscover their feelings and their desires. They will need your empathy and your trust. I have gathered you here to learn and understand the sensory overload ex-angels will be experiencing, and how you can help them navigate the sea of emotion. I will begin with my own beginnings and tell you my story. I was born in 1861 in northern England in a modest family, but fate had other things in store. Marlin and Bernard's haberdashery thrived in 1882. I completed my apprenticeship, which lasted longer than normal due to several embarrassing mistakes on my part, and the haberdashery hired me onto their shop floor. Miss Dartwood, the very pretty niece of the Honorable Marlin, for whom the shop was named, had started to smile back at me when I smiled at her. The Honorable Bernard, also for whom the shop was named, had twice complimented me on my arrangement of the gloves. Customers began to ask for me by name, and heaven smiled on me, or so I thought. On a particularly fine September morning, the sun shone bright behind the scattered clouds and the air was crisp as an apple, even if it didn't taste like one. The smoking stacks of the factories never ceased filling the city air with a metallic aftertaste. Indeed, a lovelier morning could not have been hoped for on the normally dreary streets of London. I set up a display of very expensive top hats inside the shop window and hummed a merry little tune. I expected Miss Dartwood to arrive at any moment with a bolt of red silk to be sewn into handkerchiefs. She made deliveries twice a week for her dear uncle, whom she doted on greatly, for he did not trust the common folk with the shop's most precious wares. Anyone who happened to be watching me would have thought me queer, as I spent a strange amount of time shifting the hats left and then right, all the while glancing up and out the window in anticipation of my lady love. On the 17th such glance, I observed a rare sight, a woodpecker boring a hole into the eaves of the shop across the street. My brain perceived the sound of the window shattering. The same instant, my torso caved inward and I went flying. I fell with a thump and my world spun as I rolled very peculiarly underneath the skirt of my screaming beloved. She must have taken the back entrance. It was my first and only chance to see what was up her skirt. And then she kicked me. But wait, it wasn't me. It couldn't be. I stood in the middle of the destroyed haberdashery, watching my decapitated head roll out from beneath the skirt of Miss Dartwood. I ran to her, shouting, "It's all right, my dear. By some miracle of God, I live." I reached for her hand and I fell forward and through her. Staring down in disbelief, I discerned the opacity of my once pale and fleshy hands, now white as a ghost. Miss Dartwood fainted and the true emergency of my condition descended down upon me. I, or rather my body, covered the shop amidst pieces of broken plate glass. My right leg rested in a box of bowler hats. My left hand lingered in the glove section. What happened to the rest of me is better not to speak of. The wagon's horses stood pawing and whinnying out on the sidewalk, having managed to save themselves from danger. The wagon itself occupied the shop floor, its driver impaled on a shard of glass and still clutching a bottle marked XXX. I watched the driver's ghost sit up and dust itself off. I wanted to be angry. The funny thing about being dead is that you only remember how you would have reacted when you were alive. But the effort of actually feeling is beyond you. Instead, I noticed a sensation pulling me upward, and I did not resist. I floated through the shop ceiling, through the second floor offices of Marlin and Bernard's, through the dusty attic, through the roof, and into the clear blue sky. I noticed others too. A large group of children floated up a few streets away from me, trailing smoke, probably victims of the all too frequent factory fires. More and more joined me the higher I went, until I was but one wraith in a sea of death. We floated across oceans and over strange lands, and finally into the pink clouds of eternal sunset. I don't know how long I waited. Time means very little to the dead. The throng organized itself into a line, and ghost by ghost, we approached the pearly gates. It was not dissimilar to your modern-day DMV. You might be wondering if curiosity, excitement, and nervousness permeated the air as we awaited to learn our fates. But we were calm and silent. No one gave it much thought. When my turn came, the gatekeepers asked me a few questions such as, how often do you brush your teeth? And do you believe that stealing from your employer is fair if you don't think they pay you enough? And I answered honestly, once a week and never. And they pointed me to a different entrance to the right of the pearly gates. The little wood door was so inconspicuous, I had not noticed it before. Through that door was a proper wood-paneled hallway lined with plush carpet. I sat in a drawing room for some time, sipping tea and reading Heaven's Gardens, As Many Apples as You Can Eat, while I waited. After a brief interview and finally a shower, they gave me my halo and wings. Turns out going to Sunday Mass and trying not to fall asleep does serve a purpose. I became a guardian angel. You see, you can imagine my surprise. Given my short and selfish life, I'd have thought myself unworthy. But with the exponentially growing population of the earth, heaven had a shortage of angels, and their standards were slightly lower than usual. I felt lucky to have died young. I avoided experiencing the horrors of World War I, World War II, nuclear explosions, and video game consoles. From what I remember of being human, I don't think my weak emotional temperament could have handled working for the Royal Navy, much less playing Grand Theft Auto. I wasn't the best angel, and I wasn't the worst either, but I did have a penchant for laziness. Unfortunately, my second-to-last human died at the tender age of 17 while simultaneously driving a red feline-named motorized vehicle and being pleasured by the mouth of a woman of the night. That is sort of a black mark on my record. As punishment, I received one of the highest difficulty level humans to watch over. Not only was she experimenting with feminism and vegan dieting, but she habitually burned strangely named incense. In other words, Cherry was a terrible person. And that is